Welcome to the Rethink Sales Show. My name is Derek Kelly. I am joined by Jim Shorkey. And Jim, I wanted to talk about friends and family and how those people shape or don't shape your habits.
The first step is we have to have a clear, have to have a clear, concise, specific goal. A crystal clear. It's got to be, I got to be able to write it down. I got to have pictures of it. I got to know what my goal is.
Yes.
Right now, my goal is 100% stroke recovery. That's pretty succinct.
Yeah.
I want to recover from my stroke 100%. That's a subjective measure, but still, it'll be pretty obvious that I'm doing well versus not doing well. So
Yeah.
my goal is 100% stroke recovery.
Yeah.
And now the next step is my reasons why. And for me, at least, my reasons why are the friends and family.
Yeah.
If I'm sick or if I'm not even here, I could have died with this stroke. I could have died. So I really have a really strong passion in my heart to help this lady or gentleman. And I can't do that if my brain's not working properly.
Yeah.
I have 4 children, Katie, Jim III, Russell James, and Daniel James. 4 children, 4 significant others. I have Matt, Jamie Horvath, Jim Shorkey, Ashley Lang, Ashley Shorkey, and then Chelsea Poole, Chelsea Shorkey. So I've got these, and I view them as being my children.
Yeah.
I really do. I've grown up with them. They've grown up with me. And that's not me waxing poetic. I have grown up in the process of knowing these 8 children.
Yeah.
Then I have 9 grandchildren.
Wow.
And I had this vision of holding my great-grandchild. I had that vision. I truly do. And I think about these things.
Yeah.
In Rethink You, we talk very aggressively about thinking it through the whole way through. And so I'm going to make a point about that in a second. But so I am thinking that through. And I think, wow, that'd be pretty cool to hold my great-grandchild in my hands. I think that'd be really cool to witness it, to be there, to say, hey, how are you? And then maybe even 5 years later to say, hey, great-granddaughter or great-grandson, let's have a talk. Let's sit down and talk. Pop, they call me Pop. Pop has this idea that you might want to consider. Okay? And so let's just say that it is 15 years from now. That puts me at 82 years old. And so I think, well, a lot of people live to be 82. Yeah, that's true, but not everybody. So in order for me to get to 82, I got to take care of business.
Yep.
And so when I was in hospital, I really had a really bad stroke. I had a hemorrhagic stroke, 3 brain bleeds. Shoulda, coulda, woulda died. It just wasn't good. And I can remember laying on that bed, and I was in bad shape. And I remember saying to Dr. Rosellis, who was the surgeon who did my surgery, I said, what do I do to get better? I'm already thinking this way. Do you understand?
Yeah.
What do I do to get better? He said, walk a lot. Well, guess what I do? I walk a lot. But also laying there, I thought, what am I going to do? And I started thinking about Rethink You and results from thinking.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm going to do exactly, Rethink You, by the way, is an encapsulation of what I did.
Yeah.
As far as my contribution to the Jim Shorkey Family Auto Group and what I contributed, that is Rethink You. It's what I did. And so I'm laying there thinking I'm in bad shape, you know. I mean, my first walk was a walk down the hallway to turn around at the door and walk back with a walker. And I had to take a nap. I was really hurting. But I had this reason why. And the reason why being these different ideas.
Yeah.
And so I decided early on that I was going to use Rethink You to rebuild the Jim Shorkey body.
Wow.
And so I actually, in the hospital, ordered a brand new Think and Grow Rich book. And when I got that book, I wrote in front of the book, I wrote reading number 162. Yes, 162. And I wrote 100% stroke recovery.
Yeah.
And I didn't write out my reasons why because I know my reasons why, and they do, in fact, make me cry.
Yeah.
But I got to get better. I got to make this thing better. And I'm going to prove it to you right now. This is a long answer to a short question.
Yeah, I know.
Read what that says.
Says, my journey to 122.
And when Derek and I did the first video, Derek said to me, I remember very clearly, he says, Jim, he said, you look pretty good and everything, but what about this 122? Is that still on the table?
Yeah. Because that was the question people kept messaging me. What about 122? Is Jim okay? What about 122?
I said, absolutely. I said, and I was very frank about it. I said, Derek, let me tell you something. The chances of me living to be 122 are 1,000,000,000,000 to 1. 1,000,000,000. I don't know. I didn't do the math. All you got to do is figure out how many people have lived on this planet since the beginning of recorded time. And that number, only one person has done this. Out of all those, is it a trillion? Is it a billion? I don't know. I know the odds of me doing that are really small. And I've said this to a number of people, and it's funny how they jump on you. Oh, you got the bad attitude. You got a wrong attitude about that. And no, I don't. I've got the best attitude. It's just called being a realist, being non-delusional. But what did I say to you? Do you remember?
You said, can't I at least try?
Thank you. Can't I at least try? Can't I at least try? And so I got the journal, and it says my journey to 122, and I'm going to try. Yeah. And so in this journal this is not a normal journal. I use this for when I read my books based on expert counsel is how to improve my brain, how to detoxify my brain, things I can do to make my brain better. And so I'm reading these different books, and I take notes on the book, or I highlight and check off. And then I go through the book, and I take those notes, and I transfer them to here.
Yeah.
And it gives me the chills. But I'm going to show you something that, ladies and gentlemen, you have to get this. This is important. So if I can inspire you to do anything today, it's to get one of these. And what is this? This is a list. And this is what I'm doing. And this is why I look the way I look. And this is why I can move my hands the way I can. Yesterday, I walked a little over 4 miles in a hiking fashion, and it was tough. But I keep thinking 100% stroke recovery and 122 and 9 grandchildren and the potential for great-grandchildren. I keep thinking of all these different things. It's like, Jim, you got to press on. You got to go. Come on, Jim, toughen up. Let's go. So let me read this to you. Number 1, and these are ideas I got from the books, from expert counsel. Figure out your goal. Figure out your reasons why that make you cry, and then seek expert counsel to figure out, now, how do we get there? Okay? So, number 1, novelty. Getting outside of my comfort zone. Good stress. I know it seems like I'm very comfortable doing this. I'm not. This is uncomfortable. This is a challenge. Looking at the camera, interacting with Jess over here, interacting with Derek, and just thinking on my feet, because you, again, don't know this, but I have no idea what Derek's going to ask me until he asks me. This truly is live. I have no idea. So anyways, novelty, getting outside of my comfort zone, good stress. Number 2, challenging my brain for health and wisdom, becoming more capable, getting off automatic pilot. And they call it automaticity. It's very bad for your brain. We need to challenge the brain of Jim Shorkey. This is not medical advice. This is my list. If you want to copy my list, I'll send you a copy of my list. But this is my list, okay? Number 3, aerobic training. It turns out that aerobic training is really good for my brain. And the idea being what's good for my heart is good for my brain. So aerobic training and weight training, which is the resistance training, and doing both outside. Definitely the best. When we had some downtime here today, I walked 2 miles. I had quite a few hills in that. I did physical therapy today, which was the weight training. We do it inside, but that's the way we have to do it. But aerobic training and weight training and doing both outside. Best, maximum impact. I want to win. 100% stroke recovery, right? Get outside early and often. And then along those lines, challenging my brain, lifelong learning. So it turns out that the aerobic training is really good for my brain, but also reading is one of the very best things for me and my brain. And then reading things that I'm not necessarily comfortable reading. So I've got some different books that I know nothing about. This is tough. I got to get my pen out. I got to search. What's this mean? Question marks, and I look it up on Google or whatever. But so challenging my brain, lifelong learning. Okay. Number 4, education. Turns out that education, the higher the education, the better people do with stroke recovery. So I do have a college degree, and I'm a lifelong learner. So education, engaging work would be, this is our work. I'm done with the car business. Very challenging work, was good for my brain, but this is a different kind of work, and it is a challenge to Jim Shorkey. So it turns out that this idea that I have of passing it on is really good for the stroke recovery. Wow, I didn't know that. So education, engaging work, taxing mental challenges, all 3. What happens when I think? Listen to this. And again, not medical advice. This is what I learned. What happens when I think? Did you ever think about that? What happens when you think? It's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
Thinking.
I'm sure it takes energy and calories and brain function.
Listen to this. Number 1, when you think, you increase blood flow to your brain. Number 2, meaning there's going to be more nutrients coming to your brain because there's more blood. Number 3, you take away more waste products when you think. I didn't know that. Number 4, more neurons and blood vessels. So it's not only a question of more blood flow, but there's this process called, your brain is plastic. It's called plasticity. And so it's neurogenesis and angiogenesis. The body produces more stuff to transport the more stuff. So hence it grows more of an arterial system in your brain and more neurons. And again, not medical advice. And actually, they've proven that the brain, by doing these things, that the brain actually gets bigger. It gains weight. Are you kidding me? The brain gains weight. Wow. Because of the extra stuff that's now in there. And number 6, think. What is good for my heart is good for my brain. I already said that. Exercise and reading, the combination is really fantastic. And I'm not here to talk about my list. I'm here to talk about your list. Whatever it is you're trying to do, you got to get a list. We really preach this in Rethink You. You've got to get that list that says, okay, I got to do these things today, whatever they would be. Number 5, stress. There's one I've learned a lot about. Guess what? Stress, really bad for my brain. So I've got to really work on that because if it's bad for my brain, the chances of me getting to the things that I want to get to, which is to hold that great grandbaby, it diminishes those chances. So does your reason why make you cry? Mine does. Okay. Yeah. So stress weakens my immune system. Did you know that? Stress weakens your immune system.
That makes sense.
So you have to have a strategy, a Rethink You type strategy to reduce your stress and to mitigate your stress, right? So stress hormones damage disease-fighting white blood cells. So the white blood cells fight the COVID. The stress kills the white blood cells. So you're gonna have a harder time with COVID in a stressed out situation than you would without. And again, not medical advice. Number 6 is cognitive therapy training. Now listen to this one. Because of the reading I'm doing, I signed up for a program called Cognifit. And they call them brain games, but it's a lot more intense than that. They're scientifically validated brain games that are really difficult. One of them is called the Simon test. So when it flashes left, I hit the left button. When it flashes, I hit the right button. And it measures you based on your accuracy and your speed. And so where it gets challenging is the left and the right words move across the screen. So you're looking at this thing and it says left over here, you tend to want to hit the right button. So it goes back and forth, and you got to really focus, and it's moving fast, and you're moving fast, and it comes over, it says left. Oh, yeah, the wrong button. And so now you got a doctor point, right, or whatever. And you go through this whole process. That's just one of the tests. There's several of them, and you go through this whole process. And here I am, Jim Shorkey, 67 years old. I think pretty smart guy, and I go through this evaluation. I do this every day. Okay, I'll show it in a second. And I haven't passed the test yet. I'm getting better, but I haven't passed the test yet. Fail. Big red fail. X. It's like, dang, I tried really hard, but I'm getting better.
Yeah.
And so we talk about that in Rethink You. It's not about perfection. Perfection is the goal. Progress/progression is what we want. So we didn't hit perfection. We're at 1, but you know what? We moved it to a 2. That's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
And so we keep going, and we got it to a 3. So I can prove it to you that with this, what I'm doing, I'm getting better.
Yeah.
Am I where I want to be? I am not. I don't like seeing that failure. I never wanted to be a failure. I never felt like a failure, but I'm failing. And I did have a stroke. I did have 3 brain bleeds. I have to be and by the way, the reason I'm doing this is because I just think intuitively, and this really is intuitive. This is not scientific, but I think intuitively that having had this stroke, that I have a higher probability of having another stroke. I think that. And I'm preparing for what can I do to prevent, delay, mitigate that, right? I think there's a higher probability that I would have dementia. I think that. Again, I don't have any validity to that. I have no way of proving that. And I think there's a higher probability that I would have Alzheimer's disease going forward. And so what I'm doing is I'm doing everything I possibly can to study, learn, and understand what can I do to prevent Alzheimer's disease altogether. What can I do to kick it on down the road? So if I'm going to get Alzheimer's, I'd rather get it at 100 than 90. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So prevent means I don't get it at all. delay means I get it further down the road. And mitigate means, yeah, I have Alzheimer's, but it's not as bad as somebody else. So prevent, delay, mitigate.
Yeah.
I'm acting as if I'm going to get these maladies. And a lot of people have accused me of being negative. No, that's bullcrap. Don't buy that crap. You're allowed to think negative things, okay? It's born into us. They say fear, false evidence appearing real. Now, that's bullcrap. There's a lion out there. And if you walk outside with that lion, you can have the best attitude in the world. He's going to freaking eat you. Mm-hmm. So it's okay to recognize the fear.
Right.
Fear is one of the strongest motivators on the planet. What am I afraid of right now?
Dementia?
I don't want that.
Alzheimer's.
That scares the living crap out of me. I've seen it. I've been around it. I've seen what it does to the individual. I've seen what it does to the caregivers. It is awful. Scares the crap out of me. I'd rather be a real dude and say, okay, that scares me. If I'm afraid of something, if you're 40 stories up, okay, and I take it to the edge of the building, there's a guardrail there. So we're pretty well protected. You scared?
Yeah.
You ought to be.
Yeah.
Wind gust, whatever, you fall over that guardrail, guess what? You're dead. It's not real complicated. This idea of false evidence appearing real, there are some cases where that's true, but mostly we have fear. Fear is a survival mechanism, and I'm a big believer in that. So anyways, our cognitive training, it says here 4 days per week, 20 minutes per session, 80 minutes. I take this idea, it's 20 minutes, and I do it 4 days a week. Guess what? I'm doing it every day.
Yeah.
And I'm probably more like 40 minutes. And I don't think that's one of the, there are cases where you do too much and it's, I don't think that's the case here.
Right.
I really don't.
Right.
And I'm working very hard. So here's my list, okay? Next, number 7, learning is the strongest when it is reinforced in multiple ways.
That makes sense.
So we've talked about that, and I've showed you how I read a book. I read it, I highlight it, I'll verbalize it many times.
Take notes.
So you can read a book, you can listen to it through some kind of an audio system, take notes as you just said. You can recapture those notes and make them into a list or whatever. So learning is, according to this, learning is strongest when it is reinforced in multiple ways. Am I doing that?
Yeah.
Okay. Read something completely different. Novelty, huge. And I got a book, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it, it's called Emile, E-M-I-L-E, by Jean-Jacques Rousseau. He's a French author, and it is tough. It's totally against the grain of Jim Shorkey. I'm a left brain, logical. This is a tough read, but I'm determined to read it. And I read it a couple pages here and there, and reading my brain books and reading a book right now about the Mount Fuji in Japan. And it's an active volcano, and it's in their parlance, it is a spiritual thing. And I'm reading about that and trying to understand it. Does that sound novel to you?
Yeah.
Mount Fuji? Never read that before. Novel, it's huge. So I was starting to talk about education. So they've proven that the higher your level of education, the better you do in terms of your long-term health, because they're studying the people that are aging very successfully. And that's part of my goal, right? So you don't have to have a college education to be educated. You can, and it's great if you do. I have a college degree. I don't feel that gives me any particular license over life. Right. I think really the essence of what I do is lifelong learning. I am always learning. Derek knows that.
Yes.
If you walk around this room here, you'll see books everywhere. I remember a young man was actually doing some work at the house here, and Alex Castano, and he comes up to me, he calls me Mr. Shorkey, and I had to correct him on that very quickly. He was, Mr. Shorkey, he says, can I ask you a question? He said, of course you can. He said, I've been wanting to talk to you for a year, and I just didn't. I said, Alex, why would you do that? I said, I'll talk to you anytime. He said, let's go, let's talk. And he said, I noticed you have books everywhere in this house. What's that all about? So I'm a lifelong learner. And so I started counseling with Alex and mentoring him, and he's gone on to do great things, which gives me great joy. So the broader my education, the better my brain, the better I'm going to do. Remember, this is all about 100% stroke recovery. This is about the goal, 100% stroke recovery. I've given you the reasons why that make me cry. And so I've got to broaden my education, hence Mount Fuji. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mount Fuji. All right. The theme, in number 8, the theme is to keep an open mind. And what happens is as we age, we tend to get closed-minded. We tend to get into comfort zones and automaticity. Meaning we just do things. We don't even know we're doing them. We just do them.
Right.
And it's not, the brain gets bored with that. And so the idea is to challenge the brain. One of the things I've been doing, by the way, is I've been brushing my teeth with my left hand. It's challenging.
Yeah.
But I learned that in the book. It's a little thing. It's not going to make me live to be 122. I know that. But it's challenging. And I try to do it with my left hand. Try to, because you have to dry things off. So I draw with my left hand. I'm trying to do more things with my left hand, which drives my brain crazy. That's challenging for my brain. My brain wants me to use my right arm. And when I'm using my left arm, my brain's saying, what are you doing this for? Why are you doing this to me? Right. And so but it's challenging. And the more, guess what? The more I do it, the better I get at it.
Yeah.
Which means I've opened up a whole new area of my brain. And remember what I said about neurogenesis and angiogenesis. As I'm taxing, the brain grows.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And then lastly, so number 8 is theme, keep an open mind. And then number 9, an area of interest done consciously will benefit my own brain. Wow. What am I doing right now? See, I can't make this stuff up. I'm doing a podcast, and it's called Results from Thinking, and it's called Rethink You. It's an area of interest that I'm doing consciously. So my brain is gaining weight right now. My brain is improving right now. My brain is producing more circulation and getting rid of crap and bringing more nutrients in and all those things. So you need to get yourself a list.
Yeah. Yeah.
List.
I think it's so true. I can just see as I've implemented that process you're talking about of getting myself a list. In my world, just even in my work list, for example, to make it really simple, I know as we grow the team, what I need to do is I need to make sure I'm meeting with team members every day or every other day.
There you go.
I need to make sure I'm connecting with new clients. So as I grow the team, there's things for them to work on. And I need to make sure that I'm moving along the most important things that I can move along so that everybody else can move along.
And you forgot
as
one.
well. Okay.
Rocky music.
And pump up music when we're in our team meetings.
You gotta start off with that, man. I'll tell you what, the energy will go through the roof. They'll just be pumped up. You won't believe what happens when you do that.
Yeah.
It'll knock your socks off. It's really neat. And it doesn't have to be raw. It could be Frozen. What a song, right? Let It Go. Oh, my God. Just play that song. People be crying. And in a good way. I was at my granddaughter, Sophie. I had her choral concert last night.
Yeah.
And they sang the song A Million Dreams.
Yeah.
And I cried. I can't listen to that song without getting incredibly emotional because that is me.
Yeah.
That is me.
Yeah.
I have a million dreams. Yeah. And I lay in bed at night and I think my thoughts. And this idea called Rethink You and Results from Thinking is bigger than me. I just want to help. That's really all I want to do. I had so many great mentors and so much great help, and they were so kind to me and so good to me. And that's just what I want to do.
Yeah.
I just want to help you. What can I do to help you?
Yeah.
Point blank. That's what I want to do. It makes me very emotional. And that song, I cry every time. A Million Dreams.
Yeah. So guys, let us know in the comments how this podcast has helped you, whether it's been this episode, previous content we've done. We want to know how you're being helped. We constantly hear feedback of people who love the program and love the course. And I always ask them, how are you being impacted? Because you get that feedback a lot.
Good question.
This is so great. Yeah, we know, but tell us how.
Yeah, wonderful.
And so that's what we want to hear from you guys. How has this impacted you?
How many fish did you catch today?
Yeah.
We hear people that just bought their new house, or people that salvaged their marriage that wasn't going the right way, and they used this to do that, or they got a new job, or they got a new car. They're a good friend of mine. We talk all the time, and his mission is free and clear. That's the mantra. My mantra is 100% stroke recovery. His is free and clear. And every time we get together, it's like free and clear.
Yeah.
He wants to be debt free.
Yeah.
And
it's a great goal.
Mentoring him on how to do that.
Yeah.
And boy, once you get debt free, it
feels like the weight lifted off.
It's a big deal. So if I can assist in accomplishing, that makes my heart swell.
Yeah.
And as it turns out, unbeknownst to me, according to that list there, that idea is really good for my brain. And so the things I want to do, volunteer work, charity, helping people, individuals, one person at a time, is very good for my brain. Scientific fact. And another thing that's really bad for the brain, really bad, social isolation.
That makes sense.
It's really detrimental for your brain. And hence the notes. And I didn't write that because I'm not doing that, and I understand it.
Yeah.
But social isolation is a brain killer. And it leads to
Yeah, you always hear the folks that retire and they just sit on the couch all the
man.
time, and they go quick.
when they study the blue zones, which are people that have a higher incidence of living to be over 100 years old than anybody else in the world in terms of per capita, they don't believe in retiring. Now, I am retired from the automobile business,
Right.
but I'm not retired from results from thinking, and I'm not
Right.
retired from Rethink You.
Right.
And I have a mission. And so it turns out, unbeknownst to me, that this is helping me
Yeah.
with my 100% stroke recovery.
Yeah.
How good was that for our brains?
Oh my
We
gosh.
created this program.
I remember writing the workbook. It's probably almost 100 pages, but I remember like it was new to me, right? It was taxing, and it was like, how do we
created it,
take this idea
And your
move it
brain was,
here?
if you look at your brain, they did a functional MRI or a CAT scan, whatever you call that stuff, it would look like the fireworks show at Disney.
Right.
It would.
Yeah.
Your brain is just firing and going on. It's like crazy.
Yeah.
Thinking is really good for us.
Yeah.
Hard to believe.
Yeah.
And as we age, we tend to stop doing these kind of things. And back to the social isolation, as people get older, they just tend to not go out as much and hang out with their friends as much.
Yeah.
And it's very damaging. So let's not do that.